Large box, little gun, Kimber R7 Mako tabletop review in field strip. Coming up, we'll take a look at what's in this kit. And yes, it is a kit, a special deal that I found. We'll look at what all you get in it, the manual. We'll take a look at fit, finish, features of the pistol. We'll look at chamber fitment, show you how to field strip it, and talk about what we'll do on the range with the R7 Mako. All that coming up next on GBGuns. When the R7 Mako first came out, I was particularly interested in it. It was during the micro compact craze that hit a year or two ago. Let's see, we have our logo lock, we have a decal, and a thing about joining the NRA. And then this bag, which is part of this kit I found. But what had me interested more in it than just that it's another micro compact was one, what's Kimber doing making striker-fired polymer frame pistols? Are they making it? Who's making it for them? And then two, this guy, that it's a Bubbits design pistol. Wilhelm Bubbits is a Austrian designer who worked with Canik, Caracal, Glock, Walther. His designs and ideas are all over the place. This pistol was entirely of his own design. Has a lot of interesting features, but the Bubbits improved Browning action is what this gun has. And aside from the TS9, which was previously only available in Brazil, there weren't any other guns in the US market that have that. What is that? Well, more on that later. I just found it interesting that with all the materials that came out and all of the initial press coverage, nobody mentioned that. So we have a bag here that came with the gun, quite nicely set up. Everything I'm going to show you is what came with. We've got our manual. We have a total of 5 magazines, 1 10-rounder and 4 of the 13-rounders. Then the pistol itself, of course. I went with gray because we've got plenty of black, and I was tired of FDE before FDE became cool. And a holster. This holster is an inside the waistband made by Mission First Tactical. Looks like it's reversible to be inside or outside. Kind of cool. But I got all of this for just a little over $500, which is very competitive. And having those extra mags is great. With all of this stuff in hand, you are ready to go actually train and use the thing, not just have a pistol that you shove in a pocket. And I'm gonna have to cut that tag off and rubber band off. Notice that closed top of the slide, part of the interesting design. More on that in a bit. First, I want to get into the manual. I know this is where a lot of people skip through. Those are the guys that know more than any of the 5 of the rest of us will ever know in our lives. On a serious note, I take a look at the manual because it gives you an indication of how much the company cares about you, the user, and how well you understand the firearm. The better you understand, the better time you're going to have with it, the less complaints, the less random internet, oh, I've got this problem, and then it becomes the narration about the gun when it turns out it's just user error. That's why I always look at these things. This manual is very well written, even breaks down what the major parts of the fire control system are and what they do. They went with renderings, which is usually great for highlighting things. I do find it kind of funny that they call basic parts performance features. That had me a little concerned, but the rest of it's pretty well written. And the other reason why I read through this is to find out about ammunition. I get a lot of questions about plus P ammunition on the channel. I believe plus P ammunition to be useful for guns with under a 4-inch barrel. That's because 4 inches is the SAMI standard for 9mm. So when you've got something like this at 3.4, that's right, it's a little bit longer than the other micro compacts, but still under 4 inches. Most of your hollow points, defensive loads, things like that are formulated to perform at the velocity they produce from a 4-inch barrel. When you go to a shorter barrel, you run the risk of that ammunition not getting the speed it needs to perform, and as a result, not doing what it's supposed to. In the case of hollow points, they don't open. They function like a full metal jacket if they're not going fast enough. So plus P is important for guns under 4 inches. The manual says, yes, you can use plus P. Smartly says in it, don't use plus P plus. Reason being that neither CIP, that's the European standard, nor the US SAMI has a standard for plus P plus. So once you get to plus P plus, you're talking just wild card. People can put as much powder in there as they want. So wise on them to not put that in there. Now, on the Bubbits action, I will explain that better once we field strip. For now, let's do our regular review and take a look at fit, finish, and features. We'll start that off by seeing if we have magazine release or eject. You might notice we have buttons on both sides. All controls are completely ambidextrous on this gun. With the slide locked open, push the button till we get release or eject. You can see there's a little bit of kick there. That's going to kick these magazines out. Now, on dry handlings, when I first got it home, Tia had a couple times that happen. Not every time, and it's not a matter of not pushing the button far enough. I'm not sure what's happening, but the magazine did not want to drop completely free. We'll find out more on the range if there's a magazine issue, and maybe that's why you're getting this bonus. But as I said, this kit came with everything you saw, the holster, the extra mags, the bag, all of that, for less than what these originally sold for. So quite a deal. If you want to find that same kit, check the pinned description. That's where you'll get the pinned comment. That's where you'll get the full review with all of the specs and everything, and that's also where we can safely put links to places that sell firearms, otherwise YouTube doesn't allow it. Alright, let's check, speaking of which, does the slide lock and release work on both sides? Works as a lock, and it releases nicely, very easily. I think that's pretty cool. With the flush round in there, my double XL hands, I get 1.5 fingers on the grip. With a 13 rounder, I get 2.5. So, plus for larger handed people if you live in a free state. Coming in close, you can see we've got a nice melt. The bowl cut, as they used to call it on the Glocks, and people used to pay extra to have this done. In fact, the whole gun has a nice smoothness to it, nice melt, if you will, to the slide. Up front, slide to frame is got some vertical, no horizontal, and we have some vertical play with our barrel there. That's kind of disappointing. That's not the Bubbits design so much as it is this particular iteration of it. Here's an original Bubbits gun, and the barrel's not moving. We have the clamp style accessory rail here. This is that quasi proprietary stuff that companies do when they're trying to sell you something unique for them or have something made unique for them. I wish it had just been a pick rail. We'll see when we get inside if maybe there's a reason why they couldn't cut rail into that, but it's kind of a disappointment. What is impressive, however, is all of this texture right where your hand wants to be. We've got a nice index point. You also notice the window there for the serial number, as if this is a chassis gun. Don't know for sure. And then we've got texture for the support thumb on the other side of it. We've got a bit of an undercut for the trigger, of course, but they did not double undercut, which is unfortunate. Having an extra cut under here helps you get your hand a little bit higher, and it makes a world of a difference in the way that a gun handles under recoil. Since we're up close here, let's play with that trigger. And this is something that impressed me right out of the box. It's got a good carry appropriate weight, and of course the safety dingus works. It feels like it's going to be this long heavy thing. It's sort of it's not a stacking, but an ever increasing pull to a wall, and then a really crisp break. And then watch this. Reset very loud, and you can feel it in your finger. It was pushing my finger forward to a crisp break again. It's actually a very nice striker-fired trigger. The weight of it, appropriate for a carry gun, especially one that only has safety on the finger dingus there. Magazine release is extended by relieving the polymer around it, in that it's shielded here from the side. I can brush the edge of it but not push on it because everything is recessed there. It's a nice way of keeping the gun slim and small. We have a hint at beveling underneath, but as I've explained many times, a double stack single feed magazine, this is your bevel. The magazine comes with a bevel. That's how it works. See that texture, slide to frame fit, We have some tilting. Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of play in all directions there. Metal sights. These are night sights with an orange dot, which I thought was pretty cool. Another upgrade or bonus feature on a very competitively priced pistol. I did find it odd, you might see on this cover plate here, there's an indentation there, sort of like the Canic or Walther or other things where you see the striker protrude, but that is not the case on this gun. See, that is just molded into the plastic as if they thought about doing that but didn't. We have an optics cover plate. I believe this is for the RMSC, the compact size of optic, but optics ready, nice feature to have. And on the right side you see we've got our controls, which we've already demonstrated. Next we'll field strip this thing and I'll talk about that Bubbits action and why I was excited about it as a pistol nerd. Field stripping this is very reminiscent of the Canics in that, and AREX, in that the slide does not come all the way forward to get off. First you want to check clear. Then we're going to pull down on these two takedown levers. They're slightly recessed. Actually, I think we need to release the striker first. There we go. Now we can pull down on them a little easier. Pull the slide back a hair and the levers come down further. It gets kind of hung up here, but if you move the trigger, the slide can come off the top, and if you're not careful, the recoil spring also comes shooting out. But don't worry, it is captured on a polymer rod, flat coil spring. Give you a look down inside at the setup. And it does not appear to be a true chassis type deal. But interesting construction there, slightly different from a lot of other strike fired guns, but that trigger, that's nice, it's something different. Looking in our slide, see, nice machining despite these having been out for a while, which is great. They're maintaining their tools. I did notice in the manual the striker has some extra pieces to it that I haven't seen on other guns. Now we'll ease our barrel forward to tilt it back and bring it out. And you see that step up there on top? That's part of the Bubbits action. You see, what's different about the Bubbits improved Browning action is the slide and barrel are locking here instead of up here. And as a result, you don't get as much barrel tilt. I can show you on a 4-inch barrel on the BB6, same type setup. See how much less the barrel is tilting than it would on, say, a Glock 19 or anything else using the older Browning style action. So what does that mean to you, the shooter? Well, my theory on it and my feeling is since the barrel is moving less, you've got less mass shifting in hand, and at least in the case of the BB6, it made for a softer shooting gun. That's why I was excited to see it in a micro compact, because these things are typically not fun to shoot. They end up being rather snappy, rather flippy. There's not a lot to hold on to, and you've got a slide moving very quickly and action all happening very abruptly. So by moving the lock to the back here, we have potential for a smoother shooting gun. Plus this is a 3.4-inch barrel, not a 3-inch barrel. So a little bit longer slide, a little bit longer barrel. We're getting a longer sight radius for those of us that use irons. Should be a smoother shooting gun. While we've got the barrel out, we'll of course check chamber fitment. Doing that using some Liberty Civil Defense because it's very nicely made, and you notice it is coated. That coating helps reduce friction. It's also a corrosion resistant thing, and what we're looking for is chamber support by dropping the round in, listening for the plunk, like that. And we want to see how much brass is exposed beyond the bends there. And we can see we do have a bit exposed, kind of clock-like in that sense. Sorry, the camera is not playing with me here. There we go. See if the round can turn freely, and it can, and will it drop out? It does easily. So the chamber appears to be in spec. Chamber support, maybe not the greatest, however, really what we're looking for on that is any of the main body here being exposed. Usually it's underneath on the feed ramp. When it's up here, this is in the, I believe it's called the webbing. It's part of the strongest part of the case. But when you get underneath here, that's how you end up with the smiley face on your brass like Glocks get. It's a weak spot. It's where, should the case want to erupt, it's going to blast out of there into your hand instead of sending the round down the barrel in event of overpressure. Not something that happens frequently, just something I look for in firearms. The sights appear to also be Glock style or Glock cut. Speaking of which, we have the little screw in there and dovetail in the back, although these have a nice ledge on them, and already being night sights with a nice bright ring around it up front leaves me feeling like we're not going to need to swap sights, and worst case you can always slap a dot on it. While I reassemble, which is just the inverse of disassembly, I'll talk about what we'll do in the range video. Head out to the range, hopefully with Miss Tia, so you get 2 opinions and 2 different hand sizes on this, but our absolute first shots through the pistol are done on camera, so you can get those reactions and immediate first thoughts. We'll do full mag +1 to see how these magazines run when fully stuffed. Our trademark what's for dinner test to see what the gun will or won't eat. That's 10 different loads in addition to the range ammo we're already using. Then take it to the spinner for sights and trigger control, some practical accuracy, and then give you concluding thoughts. In reassembly, you notice that I'm starting here, not like this as you would on other guns. That's because the slide is closed back here. So you have to line up the relief cuts on the slide with the rails on the gun. It's not that hard. Just kind of find a spot where it sits down like that, and then rack the slide. We'll say the finish on this is very nice, and as a result it is a slick slide. These serrations up front are a little bit shallow for my taste. However, there's plenty of them in the back to be able to really grab. It's just grabbing up front is a little difficult on this thing. It also has some extra racking pressure needed towards the end of the stroke in the back here. I'm suspecting that's probably the part that arms the striker. But with everything back together, we'll do a quick functions check, which on a gun like this is simply, does it fire? Does the trigger reset? Yes. So that's the Kimber R7 Mako. I had kind of sworn off doing micro compacts. I don't enjoy shooting them. I don't carry them. I prefer something larger. However, they are all the rage because they're comfortable to carry. And in seeing one at this price range with all of this stuff, I figured, heck, why not? It'll be interesting to see how it does in the range. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.